I am Richard Powell, and I'm the UNHCR's Regional Representative for Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and the Pacific. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that you had to flee your home because of your beliefs, how you look, or who you support. No one would do this lightly. No one would risk their lives if they knew they were only going to be persecuted again. We at the UNHCR are committed to the cause until there are no more refugees in the world. Our main objective is to protect the right of refugees and assist them at every stage of displacement. Let me make this perfectly clear. The UNHCR does not advocate for people smugglers. Our goals for Australia are simple. We at the UNHCR believe knowledge is the first step in creating laws for asylum seekers because it is clear to us that there is a lack of understanding about what a refugee and asylum seeker actually are within the Australian community. The Australian government needs to change its policies on dealing with asylum seekers in a faster, more efficient manner with stronger safeguards and look into onshore processes rather than the current policy of offshore processing, which already cannot handle the amount of asylum seekers entering Australia. We also need support and funding from all agencies in delivering the best outcomes for refugees as the UNHCR's refugee camps determine those who are real refugees and those who will be rejected. The issue is not that asylum seekers are coming to Australia. It is that Australians do not understand what it means to be an asylum seeker or refugee. And the government and opposition need to change this. Seeking asylum in Australia is legal, with or without valid visas under the Refugee Convention, which Australia willingly signed. Moreover, asylum seekers are generally forced to flee for protection, and such circumstances allow them no time to apply for protection visas. That does not mean that they should be detained or isolated. Last year, 43.7 million across the globe were uprooted because of conflict, disaster, and persecution. Let that number sink in. 43.7 million. That's twice the number of people living in Australia. Put yourself in their shoes. Would you have the time to fill in a visa application? The Australian government needs to work on streamlining the assessment process to help assist those in real need. Since 2008, only 2% of those refused refugee status by Australia were actually deported. Not 100%, not 20%, but only 2%. This is delaying the process of helping genuine refugees that need to be handled by the government better. The UNHCR believes that the best way to deal with asylum seekers arriving by boat is to process them in Australian territory. This onshore processing would bring Australia back in line with the rest of the globe. However, the current policy put forward by the Malaysian and Australian government does have some value in fostering and engaging relationships within Southeast Asia and helping prevent people smugglers from smuggling asylum seekers into Australia and risking their lives. But, as the policy stands, there are still many complex legal, protection and operational issues. Our biggest concern is the offshore processing of asylum seekers, particularly in Papua New Guinea and Nauru, where these countries do not have the legal safeguards, nor the competence, nor the capacity to protect and process asylum seekers being transferred from Australia on their own. Of the 4,000 asylum seekers that recently arrived on Australian shores, none have yet to be processed due to the pursuit of these offshore processing plants, which already cannot handle the number of asylum seekers, and under the Refugee Convention, we would almost consider this as Australia shaking off its responsibilities. Should the Australian government continue this course of action, they must understand that they will have ongoing legal responsibilities under international law for the protection of these asylum seekers. Ladies and gentlemen, education is the first step in helping asylum seekers and refugees, and a task that everyone can do. The government needs to realign itself with the rest of the world and rethink its current strategies for handling asylum seekers and rejected refugees, as they are clearly not working and are taking too long. Let's remember that asylum seekers are real people, not just boat people, but real people. People hoping to live a life free of oppression, free from persecution and free to live a life the way Australians live.